When I asked what time my son's funeral was, my daughter-in-law looked me up and down, smiled, and quietly said, "You're too late." For a moment, I thought I had heard her wrong. If you've ever trusted your family with your whole heart, stay with me until the end. And before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. It still amazes me how many kind people from different cities have become part of my story. My name is Evelyn. I'm 68 years old, and until that morning, I believed no mother could ever be kept away from saying goodbye to her own child. The funeral home stood on a quiet street just outside Columbus, Ohio. The parking lot was almost empty when I arrived. I remember checking the dashboard clock in my old Buick. It read 11:42 a.m. I had driven nearly 90 miles after finally learning where the service was being held. I carried a small bouquet of white lilies from the neighborhood florist. Daniel had always loved lilies. Every Easter, he used to bring me a fresh bouquet before coming inside for dinner. Even after he married, he never forgot that tradition. As I walked toward the entrance, I noticed several guests carrying folded programs back to their cars. Some women had tears on their cheeks. A man in a dark suit removed his black tie and slipped it into his pocket. Something didn't feel right. Inside the lobby, I spotted my daughter-in-law, Rachel. Her black dress was perfectly pressed. Her makeup looked untouched, as if she had spent more time preparing for photographs than for grief. I forced a tired smile. "Rachel," I said softly. "I'm so sorry. Traffic was terrible. What time does the service begin?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the flowers in my hands. Then she looked back at me. A slow smile crossed her face. "You're too late." That was all she said. No apology. No explanation. Just 4 words spoken so calmly they chilled me more than if she had shouted. I stared at her, waiting for the rest of the sentence. She simply stepped aside. Behind her, I saw employees quietly removing the last floral arrangements from the chapel. That's when I realized those 4 words meant something far worse than I could have imagined. I stood there with the lilies still in my hands. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The chapel doors were open just enough for me to see workers folding chairs and carrying away flower stands. The large framed photograph of Daniel was already being taken down from the easel. It was over. My son's funeral had ended without his mother. I looked back at Rachel, hoping she would finally explain. "There must be some mistake," I said quietly. "The hospital told me the service was today." "It was," she answered without emotion. "I assumed somebody had already told you the time. With everything happening, I thought Emily called you. I didn't want to overwhelm you with more messages. You just missed it." "Missed it?" She spoke as if I had arrived late to a movie instead of my own son's funeral. I lowered my eyes to the white lilies. Tiny drops of water still clung to the petals from the florist's cooler. I had picked them up less than an hour earlier because I wanted them to be fresh. Daniel deserved fresh flowers. He deserved his mother standing beside him one last time. Instead, I was standing in an empty lobby with a bouquet that suddenly had nowhere to go. A few guests walked past me toward the parking lot. Some offered polite smiles. Others quickly looked away, almost embarrassed. One elderly couple whispered something to each other before the husband gave me a long, sympathetic look. It wasn't the look people give someone who's simply late. It was the look people give someone who has just discovered a painful truth. Rachel adjusted the strap of her handbag. "We're heading to the cemetery now," she said. "You can come if you want." "If I want." Not, "Come with us." Not, "We waited." Just, "If I wanted." That sentence hurt more than I expected. Daniel would never have spoken to me that way. Even after he married Rachel 8 years earlier, he never missed my birthday. He called every Sunday evening, almost always around 6 o'clock. If he was running late, he'd text first. He had been thoughtful his entire life. Which made one question impossible to ignore. If Daniel had wanted me at his funeral, Who made sure I wasn't there? As Rachel walked toward the exit, I noticed something sticking halfway out of her leather folder. It was a folded funeral program. Across the front, in elegant silver lettering, were the words, "Celebrating the life of Daniel Brooks." Beneath the title was the service time. 10 a.m. No one had ever told me. I couldn't stop looking at the time printed on that funeral program. 10 a.m. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. My fingers felt stiff as I opened the last text message Rachel had sent me. "The service is Saturday. I'll let you know the details." I had called her twice after that, but both times it went straight to voicemail. I figured she was overwhelmed with the funeral arrangements and didn't want to be bothered with another call. So I waited, thinking she'd reach out when she had a minute. There had never been another message. No address. No time. Nothing. I looked up at her. "You never told me when it started." Rachel shrugged as if we were discussing the weather. "I thought the hospital had already called you, or maybe Emily did. With everything going on, I honestly assumed one of the family members had reached out." "Didn't you get my voicemail?" I could have sworn I left one. "Someone else." The words settled over me like cold rain. For months after Daniel's accident, I had been answering calls from doctors, insurance companies, and family friends. Yet somehow, when it came to the most important day of my son's life and death, everyone suddenly assumed someone else would contact me. That wasn't believable. Not in a family. Not after everything we'd been through. A funeral director stepped into the lobby carrying a clipboard. He paused when he saw me still standing there. "Mrs. Brooks?" he asked politely. I nodded. "I'm Daniel's mother." His expression changed immediately. "Oh. I thought you had already been inside." Before I could answer, Rachel spoke first. She got delayed. He gave me a sympathetic smile. "I'm very sorry. Your son requested a beautiful memorial video. We played it just before everyone shared their memories." Shared their memories. I never got the chance to share mine. I thanked him quietly. It wasn't his fault. As he walked away, something caught my attention near the welcome table. A framed guest book. Nearly every page was filled with signatures. Friends. Neighbors. Former co-workers. Even cousins from out of state had managed to be there. I slowly turned the pages. People had written stories about Daniel. His kindness. His generosity. His love for family. Someone had written, "He always spoke so proudly about his mom." My vision blurred for the first time that day. If Daniel had spoken proudly about me, if dozens of people had found the time to say goodbye, why was I the only person who never knew when to arrive? Then I noticed a small white envelope tucked beneath the guest book. Across the front, written in Daniel's familiar handwriting, were 4 simple words. "For Mom. Personally." I picked up the envelope with both hands. For a second, I simply stared at Daniel's handwriting. He had always written my birthday cards the same way. The letters leaned slightly to the right, neat but never perfect. I could recognize them anywhere. Before I could open it, Rachel's voice came from behind me. "Mrs. Brooks, that can wait," she said softly. "It's probably just paperwork from the funeral home, and you've already had enough to deal with today." I turned toward her. "It has my name on it." Rachel gave me a small, sympathetic smile. "Exactly. That's why it can wait a few minutes. You don't need one more thing on your plate right now. Let me take care of the rest first." She reached out as if to steady my arm, not quite touching it. "I'm sure it's nothing urgent." Nothing urgent. Those words stayed with me. A week earlier, she had told me not to worry about the funeral arrangements because she had everything under control. At the time, I believed her. After losing my only son, I didn't have the strength to question every decision she made. Now I wished I had. Just then, the funeral director returned. Mrs. Brooks, he said gently, would you like to see the memorial binder? We keep the family seating arrangement in here for close relatives. Before I could answer, Rachel stepped in. I already packed everything. He looked surprised. I thought we had set one aside for Daniel's mother. There was a brief silence. Rachel laughed softly. Oh, with everything going on, I must have forgotten. Forgotten. First, she forgot to tell me the time. Then she forgot to save me a place. The excuses were becoming too familiar. The funeral director walked to a nearby cabinet anyway. I think there may still be one left. He returned with the binder and opened it on a side table. As he handed it to me, I scanned the page marked reserved family seating. Rachel. Her parents. Daniel's closest friends. I kept reading. Second row. Third row. Fourth. My name wasn't there. Not crossed out. Not misspelled. Not moved to another section. It simply didn't exist. Someone hadn't forgotten to reserve me a seat. Someone had planned for me never to have one. I slowly closed the binder and slipped the page into my purse. For the first time that day, I stopped wondering whether this had been an accident. I started wondering how long it had been planned. I didn't confront Rachel. Not there. Not with strangers walking through the lobby and staff quietly cleaning up after the service. I had spent nearly 70 years learning that the truth rarely reveals itself to the loudest person in the room. It reveals itself to the one who pays attention. I slipped the seating chart and Daniel's envelope into my purse without opening either one. Rachel glanced at my handbag. Are you coming to the cemetery? She asked. I'll be there, I replied. But I need a minute. Rachel's smile thinned. Please don't make today harder than it already is, she said softly. Daniel wouldn't have wanted conflict here. The words landed exactly where she meant them to. If I pushed any further, I would be the one upsetting the day, not the person who had kept me in the dark. She hesitated for the first time all morning. It lasted only a second. Then she nodded and walked outside. As soon as the front doors closed behind her, the funeral director approached me again. I'm sorry if today has been difficult, he said gently. I managed a small smile. May I ask you something? Of course. When was today's service scheduled? He didn't even have to think about it. Almost a week ago. A week. My heart tightened. And the family approved everything together? I asked. He looked slightly confused. Rachel handled nearly all the arrangements. He paused before adding, she told us she'd keep everyone informed. Everyone. The word echoed in my mind. Except me. I thanked him and started toward the exit. Just outside the funeral home, I noticed a large display board covered with photographs from Daniel's life. There he was at 8 years old, proudly holding the first fish we caught together at Buckeye Lake. Another picture showed him graduating from Ohio State, wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Then I noticed the final photo. It had been taken only 3 months earlier. Daniel stood beside Rachel in their backyard, smiling at the camera. Behind them was a wooden sign decorated for a family barbecue. Written across the top were the words, "Family is everything." I couldn't help staring at those words. Because if family truly meant everything, why had someone worked so hard to erase his own mother from the final day of his life? As I reached my car, my phone vibrated. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. I answered quietly. A man's voice said, "Mrs. Brooks? My name is Thomas Reed. I'm your son's attorney." Then he spoke the sentence that changed everything. "There's something Daniel specifically instructed me to give you, and only you." I stayed in my car for a few seconds before answering. "This is Evelyn Brooks." "Mrs. Brooks, my name is Thomas Reed. I represented Daniel over the past 2 years." His voice was calm and professional. "There are a few documents your son asked me to deliver personally. He was very specific that they go directly to you." I glanced through the windshield. Across the parking lot, I saw Rachel's SUV pulling toward the cemetery entrance. She had no idea I was still sitting there. I thought everything would have gone to his wife, I said carefully. There are matters involving Mrs. Brooks, he replied, choosing his words with care. But Daniel also left separate instructions concerning you. Separate instructions. Those two words caught my attention immediately. When would you like to meet? I asked. The sooner, the better. He paused. I'll be in my office until 5. If today is too difficult, tomorrow morning is fine. I looked at the clock. It was only a few minutes after noon. I'll come today. Good. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, Mrs. Brooks. Daniel seemed very concerned about one particular issue. My hand tightened around the steering wheel. What issue? I'm afraid I'd rather discuss that in person. The line went quiet. We exchanged addresses, and the call ended. For several moments, I simply sat there, looking at the cemetery entrance and thinking about Daniel's voice on the phone. I had come here expecting a funeral, but now all I could think about was the way Thomas Reed had said, separate instructions. Something in me knew Daniel had left more than condolences behind. Instead of going inside, I started the engine and decided I would drive straight downtown to his lawyer's office. I thought about the envelope still resting inside my purse. I had wanted to open it the moment I found it. Now I decided to wait. If Daniel had left both a personal letter and legal instructions, I wanted to understand the full picture before reading either one. As I was about to pull away, someone tapped lightly on my driver's window. It was the funeral director. He smiled politely. I almost forgot. He held out a small sealed envelope. While we were going through Daniel's personal effects and setting aside the items for the attorney handling his estate, one of my staff found this tucked inside his file. The envelope is addressed to you, so I thought you should have it directly. I looked down. In the upper corner, written in Daniel's handwriting, were the words, "Please give this to my mother immediately." I felt a chill run through me. Rachel had already seen the envelope. And somehow, she had decided I didn't need it. I didn't drive to the cemetery. Instead, I pulled into a quiet park a few miles away. The parking lot overlooked a small lake where Daniel and I used to feed ducks when he was little. It felt like the only place where I could breathe. For the first time that day, I opened the envelope marked, "For Mom." Personally. Inside was a single folded letter. The paper trembled slightly in my hands. Daniel had always preferred writing things down instead of sending long text messages. Even as an adult, he believed important words deserved ink. I recognized his handwriting immediately. "Mom," it began. "If you're reading this, then something happened before I had the chance to explain everything myself." I stopped. Closed my eyes. Then kept reading. "First, I need you to know one thing. I never stopped loving you. Not for one day." A tear landed on the corner of the page. I wiped it away before the ink could smear. I know it may have looked like I was pulling away these last few years. I wasn't. I was trying to keep peace in two different worlds, and I wasn't very good at it. That sounded exactly like Daniel. Always trying to fix everyone else's problems. Always believing things would somehow work themselves out. Then I reached the paragraph that made my heart sink. "Mom, if Rachel tells you I didn't want you involved, don't believe her." I read the sentence again. And then a third time. "There are conversations you never heard. Decisions made without you. If anything ever happens to me, please meet with Tom before you trust anyone else's version of events." Tom. Thomas Reed. The attorney. Daniel hadn't written that after his accident. He had planned it beforehand. Months beforehand. I carefully folded the letter and placed it back inside the envelope. The second sealed envelope, the one the funeral director had rescued from Daniel's file, was still unopened beside me on the passenger seat. This time, I noticed something I had missed before. In the lower right corner, Daniel had written one final sentence. Open this only after speaking with Tom. I put both envelopes back into my purse and drove downtown. Thomas Reed's office occupied the third floor of an old brick building just a few blocks from the courthouse. It wasn't flashy. A brass plaque beside the elevator simply read, Reed and Holloway, attorneys at law. When I walked in, a receptionist stood and smiled. Mrs. Brooks? Mr. Reed is expecting you. He greeted me at his office door with a firm handshake. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. So am I answered. His office was quiet. Family photographs sat beside shelves filled with legal books that looked older than both of us. After we sat down, he folded his hands across the desk. Before we discuss the documents, he said, I need to ask you something. I nodded. Were you able to attend Daniel's funeral this morning? The question caught me off guard. No. His expression didn't change, but I noticed him make a small note on the legal pad beside him. I was afraid of that. You expected this? I asked. He chose his words carefully. Daniel shared several concerns with me over the past year. Most involved family communication. Family communication. Such simple words. Yet they covered something much deeper. He never accused anyone of breaking the law, Thomas continued. But he worried that important information might not always reach you. I thought about the missing funeral time. The empty seat. The envelope Rachel had dismissed. None of it felt accidental anymore. Thomas opened a locked drawer and removed a large sealed folder. Across the front, in Daniel's handwriting, were the words, to be opened only if my mother is present. Thomas looked directly at me. I've had this for almost 8 months. 8 months. Daniel had prepared all of this long before the accident. Long before anyone imagined we'd be sitting in this office. Thomas slid the folder across the desk but didn't let go immediately. Mrs. Brooks, he said quietly, once we open this, some people may never look at your family the same way again. I rested my hand on the folder. Then I slowly broke the seal. The seal came apart with a quiet tear. Inside the folder were several documents, each arranged neatly in clear plastic sleeves. Daniel had always been organized. Even as a little boy, he labeled his school folders with perfect handwriting. Some things never changed. Thomas removed the first document and placed it in front of me. It isn't a will, he said. Not yet. It is a letter of instruction. At the top of the page, I saw Daniel's signature. Below it was a paragraph addressed directly to Thomas. If my mother is ever excluded from decisions involving my funeral, my estate, or family matters, I want every document in this file released to her immediately. I looked up. He actually wrote this? Thomas nodded. 8 months ago. My chest felt heavy. Daniel hadn't been expecting to die. He had been preparing for the possibility that I would be shut out. Thomas opened another sleeve. This contains copies of emails. He handed me several printed pages. Most were ordinary conversations with insurance companies and financial advisors. Then one message caught my attention. It was from Daniel to Thomas. If Mom ever tells you she wasn't informed about something important, believe her first. I'll explain why when we meet next month. Next month. There had never been a next month. The accident had happened 2 weeks later. Thomas quietly slid another document across the desk. This one may answer some of your questions. It wasn't legal paperwork. It was a typed timeline. Dates. Phone calls. Meetings. Notes Daniel had written after conversations at home. Nothing dramatic. Nothing exaggerated. Just careful observations. Mom wasn't told about Thanksgiving dinner. Rachel said she forgot to invite her. Mom learned about our anniversary party from Facebook. Pattern continues. Pattern. That single word hit harder than anything else. It wasn't only the funeral. Daniel had noticed it long before I had. He had been documenting every time I was quietly pushed to the edge of the family. Thomas closed the folder. There is one final item. He looked directly at me. I think Daniel intended it to be shown in front of the entire family. Then he reached for a small flash drive labeled in Daniel's handwriting, "Play only when everyone is present." Thomas looked at the flash drive for a long moment before placing it gently on his desk. Daniel wanted this played only if everyone named in his instructions was present, he said. Who is everyone? You, Rachel, her parents, Daniel's sister, and 2 close family friends. I nodded slowly. So he wanted witnesses. I believe he wanted clarity, Thomas replied. Before we do anything else, I'm going to call an estate meeting. Daniel's final instructions need to be reviewed with everyone together. Over the next 2 days, Thomas contacted each person and explained that the meeting was about Daniel's estate and final wishes. No one refused. On Tuesday afternoon, we gathered in the conference room at his office. Rachel arrived wearing a navy blazer and dark sunglasses, even though we were indoors. She greeted everyone with practiced politeness but never looked directly at me. Her parents sat beside her. Daniel's younger sister, Emily, took the chair next to mine and quietly squeezed my hand. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know. For the first time since the funeral, I believed someone. Before starting the video, Thomas explained that Daniel had recorded it about 8 months before the accident and left it with his legal papers in Thomas's office. He said Daniel had been very clear that it was to be shown only if the family ever needed the truth in writing and in his own voice. Thomas waited until the room became silent. Then he connected the flash drive to a large television mounted on the wall. The screen stayed black for several seconds. Finally, Daniel appeared. He was sitting on the back porch of his home, wearing his favorite gray sweatshirt. Birds chirped somewhere behind him. He smiled. Hi, everyone. The room froze. I hope this video never needs to be played, he began. But if you're watching it, then something happened before I had the chance to fix things myself. He paused and looked directly into the camera. Mom. My breath caught. If you weren't included in saying goodbye to me, I need everyone in this room to understand one thing. He took a slow breath. That wasn't my decision. Silence filled the room. I didn't look at Rachel. I kept my eyes on my son. Daniel continued. I've watched small things happen for years. Invitations that never reached Mom. Family plans she somehow learned about afterward. Every explanation sounded reasonable by itself. He lowered his eyes for a moment. But together, they stopped looking like accidents. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Rachel slowly remove her sunglasses. For the first time since this nightmare began. She looked frightened. Then she cleared her throat and leaned back in her chair, folding her hands as if she were trying to steady the room. Daniel misunderstood a few situations, she said carefully, keeping her voice low. I was trying to protect everyone from more stress, especially with everything he was going through. She glanced at me, then away. There was never any intention to hurt anyone. If something was missed, it was never meant that way. The words sounded calm, almost reasonable, but they landed like another layer of fog. She wasn't denying anything outright. She was trying to make the truth feel complicated enough to doubt. No one spoke after Daniel's words faded from the screen. The room was completely still. You could hear the quiet hum of the air conditioner and the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Thomas stopped the video but left the screen black. He didn't need to say anything. Daniel already had. Rachel stared at the conference table with her hands folded tightly together. For the first time since I had arrived at the funeral home, she looked unsure of herself. Emily was the first to break the silence. Is that true? She asked quietly. Rachel didn't answer right away. Emily tried again. Did you really keep Mom from knowing about the funeral? Rachel let out a slow breath and finally looked up. You always assume the worst about me, she said, her voice tight but controlled. Emily blinked at her. Rachel kept going before anyone could interrupt. I was carrying so much after Daniel passed. I was trying to hold everything together. No one moved. She glanced from Emily to me, then back down at her hands. Maybe there were misunderstandings on both sides, she said. I never wanted you to feel excluded. The room stayed silent. Her words hung there, careful and polished, but they didn't change anything. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He looked at me with genuine embarrassment. Evelyn, he said softly, if we had known, we never would have allowed this. I believed him. Because the shock on his face couldn't be rehearsed. Thomas reached for one final document. This is Daniel's written instruction regarding family communication. He passed copies around the table. Every page carried Daniel's signature. Near the bottom was one sentence highlighted in yellow. My mother is never to be excluded from any memorial, estate meeting, or family matter concerning me. There was nothing emotional about it. Just one clear instruction. Simple. Direct. Impossible to misunderstand. Rachel slowly pushed her chair back. I think I should leave. Thomas calmly looked up. You're free to leave whenever you wish. But these documents will remain part of the estate record. She froze. For the first time, she seemed to understand that this wasn't simply a family disagreement anymore. It was a written record of Daniel's wishes. She picked up her purse without looking at anyone. As she reached the door, she finally turned toward me. I'm sorry. The words were barely above a whisper. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I answered just as quietly. I wish my son had heard that while he was still here. She lowered her eyes. And without another word, she walked out alone. A week later, I returned to the cemetery alone. The crowds were gone. The flowers from the funeral had begun to fade, replaced by fresh arrangements left by people who still remembered Daniel. I carried the same bouquet of white lilies. The one I never had the chance to place beside him that morning. This time, no one stood in my way. I knelt beside his headstone and gently laid the flowers down. I'm sorry it took me so long, I whispered. A soft breeze moved through the rows of maple trees. For the first time since receiving the phone call about Daniel's accident, I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel excluded. I finally had the chance to say goodbye to my son in my own words. I told him about the ducks at the little park where we used to spend Saturday mornings. I told him I still kept the Father's Day card he made for his dad when he was 8 years old. I even laughed as I remembered the summer he insisted he could mow the lawn by himself and accidentally drove straight through my flower bed. Those were the memories no one could take from me. Not Rachel. Not silence. Not even time. In the weeks that followed, Thomas completed the legal matters exactly as Daniel had instructed. His letters, his written directions, and his recorded message became part of the official estate file. Nothing was changed. Nothing was hidden. Emily began stopping by every Sunday afternoon. Sometimes we talked about Daniel. Sometimes we simply shared coffee on the back porch without saying much at all. That felt like family. As for Rachel, I heard she eventually sold the house and moved closer to her parents. We never argued again. There was nothing left to argue about. The truth had already spoken louder than either of us ever could. People sometimes ask me what hurt the most. Was it missing my son's funeral? Was it the lies? Or was it the betrayal? The answer surprises them. The deepest wound wasn't being kept away from one ceremony. It was believing, for a little while, that my son had chosen to leave me behind. Thanks to the words he carefully left for me, I now know that wasn't true. His final gift wasn't money. It wasn't property. It was the chance to leave this world knowing his mother would one day discover the truth. And every time I place fresh white lilies beside his name, I remember the last thing Daniel gave me wasn't goodbye. It was peace.